Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of Paul Brown Show. This evening, my guest be Miss Lynette M.Jewell. She's a radio personality. She's an author. She's a motivational speaker. She's a business consultant. She's an entrepreneur. How you doing there, Miss Jewell?
Hello, how are you?
Great. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Washington, D.C., so I'm a
Oh,
Washingtonian. Raised in Southern Maryland, right outside of D.C. I've been here in Charlotte 5 years. Just wanted something different, change of pace, and here I am.
okay. You have a radio show. Tell the audience a little bit about your radio show.
My radio show is called The El Michelle Show. It's a live podcast. My goal is to find out what's going on within the city.
Okay.
I'm looking for authors, entrepreneurs, anybody that's making a difference within the community. My motto has always been somebody sow the seed in my life and shine the spotlight on me. Now it's my turn to sow a seed in somebody else and shine the spotlight on them. Because a lot of times we don't get the exposure or the appreciation and the thank you for what we do. So I want to be that person, like on the other side of you, and
Correct.
find out why you do what you do. Because everybody has a love and a passion, but nobody ever talks about how do we get started.
So, Lynette, when you doing your radio show, how do you prepare yourself for each one of those different guests? You know?
One is studying and research. You can't just have somebody just come on and you have nothing about, because it's something that you want your audience to be able to get an experience from it, a lesson learned, and maybe they can say, if they did it, I can do it. And because you want people to tell their story, keep it authentic, be transparent, so people can say, you know what, I thought about doing that type of business. Oh, I wanted to start my own. Dang, if you start at the bottom, I can do that.
So, when you see your radio show and you help people out, what does that do to Miss Lynette Michelle Jewell?
Well, it's an emotional time. After the show, it's like an aha, or I get that moment, like Oprah says, that aha moment, that I was able to bring somebody's talents and gifts to light.
Okay.
And sometimes I have moments where, like, wow, did you see yourself? The questions that you asked, or certain topics, or you hear somebody say, nobody's ever asked me that question. How do you think of that? It's just, I always say, well, it was always told to me, my mouth was going to get me in trouble.
Okay.
One day, my mouth is making me money.
Okay.
So I'm using it for positive. I try to make sure that I don't, bash people. Like some people want to just spill the tea, get the juice.
Correct.
No, I wanted to stay positive with a positive flow, and just have people to be relaxed. Like we just sitting, good old,
Correct. Okay.
friendly folks just sitting there talking the breeze.
Motivational speaker. What made you want to get into that?
I just have a lot to say. Over the years growing up, I was always capped. You say something, then they want to shut you down. My thing is that there's a healing that's out there. I'm going to go out there and get it. I want people to see that my story is my story. It's nothing that's made up. It's nothing that is going to hurt you but to heal you, but it is going to come some hurt. And I want to be transparent to where people are listening, but they're also seeing that they can get a healing. Because for so long, I would just say within the black culture, but it's all around. We've been told, put it underneath the rug, put it underneath the table. We don't talk about it, put it in the closet. We don't talk about it. It's time to talk about it because so many of us are hurting. And when hurt people, you want to cap that because it's a generational curse.
Okay.
So you want to cap it, heal it, and then move forward. Because a lot of times it's us that's in the way. And if my voice and my story can help somebody, if I just reach one, I've done my part.
I know you talk a lot about your story. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, with my story, I'm coming out of a divorced household.
Okay.
I wasn't a latchkey kid, but I lived with my grandmother. So I was raised around nothing but adults. So stuff that happened to me as far as in being, molested, just being not heard and not seen, the how the old thing, be heard, not seen, that tends, for me, was like a Band-Aid. You got the scab. And too many times we put the Band-Aid on top where we never talk about the sore. We never talk about the deep-rooted hurt and pain. And for years, telling my story and then not being heard. Coming from a background, my mother's a teacher, my dad was an entrepreneur, and watching just a teacher just go up the steps and ladder of business to where my father was a great entrepreneur, businessman, and never got appreciated, never got respected, and wrote book, but never had that push to say you were great, you were successful. Not that I didn't have, but come up in school, if you was a teacher's kid, they kind of frowned on the teacher's kids.
Okay.
So I've had teachers to say that you would never be nothing. Then I had a teacher say you will be whatever you want to be. And we're still friends to this day with 30 years being out of school. That's one of my, like my play mom and stuff. So coming up and hearing that you're never going to be nothing, or if you don't listen to me, you're never going to amount to anything. It didn't take for me to move here 5 years ago, but it took me until I was 50 just to walk into my passion.
Okay.
And I was always around it, but never thought that I could do it.
So what got you to that place where you got to where you wanted to be at in life?
I got tired of watching everybody that I was around or were helping out on their shows move forward. And then I keep hearing, and I had no problem jumping on a show. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't have a guest, you be like, you got something to say, jump on out, mic up, had no problem. But it was time for me to start walking into what I wanted to do. And it had to take for me to move. I had no family here, none. Just had some friends, but it had to take for me to finally move because I felt like I was dying back home. And it had to take for me to move here to find out who Lynette was. And from that, I'm here now.
So when you're motivating these individuals who, just like you said, they're afraid to go to that next step, how do you encourage them to leap out on faith? Because, sometimes, a lot of times we fear what we can't see.
Right.
And that's what stops us from going to that next level, because we're afraid that we're going to fail or it's not going to be what we want it to be.
Once a person sees that you're real, that you're being transparent, that their story is piercing them. A lot of times we'll go hear speakers or, most time we hear speakers, sometimes there's no connection. You just basically just sitting there. But if you can keep it real, keep it transparent, and at least zone in on one person, you'll change them. Because they'll see this is real. You got some people just want to talk and there's no change.
Correct.
You got to always, it's like when you're talking about speaking, picture everybody in the underwear to get the fear off. No, you just zone in on one person. You're talking to everybody, but you're zoning into one person. If you can get that one person, the rest will come. The rest will come.
And what type of gratification do you get when they come back to you and they have taken that next step because they heard something that you have told them that encouraged them to take that next step?
Oh wow, I've had folks that say, because you stepped out on faith and wrote your book, I want to go ahead and tell my story. I'm gonna go ahead on and get the help. I'm not gonna be afraid. I tell everybody, if somebody tells you you say you want to go to counseling, somebody tells you to don't go, get away from them, because they're part of the problem. So I had some folks that's called me and told me that they're ready to write the book. They're ready to go ahead and step out on their purpose, and they're not afraid to do it. And that right there is just knowing that I've done it correctly. I'm not perfect, because I'm going to make some mistakes. But when somebody comes and tells me that they have stepped out on faith,
Correct.
they move, that's just another notch on my belt for my crown. but it also lets me know that I'm in the right direction.
What, Lynette, made you want to become an author? Other than I know you said your father was one, but what made Lynette want to be an author?
I've always had a story. I used to have this motto: if you stretch your arms out wide and you have something to say, and they stop you here, that means I have all of this to say. I have a lot of this to say. And I knew, somebody asked me, when I write my book, is my book going to be just about me, or is the book going to be inspiration and healing? And then when I thought about it, I said I wanted to be both. First, it started out to be a scripture. I saw myself on the pulpit.
Okay.
And I think scriptures are supposed to be like 30 minutes, maybe 60. Mine was like 3 hours long. I was like, I don't think that I was meant to, that was 3 hours long. But I took that scripture and I took that title, and also my composition book was gone. I was like, go ahead, devil, you can have my book. I know the title and I know the scripture.
Correct.
And it was just, I had something to say. And I really didn't care, and I really don't care now. It's not about pride. It's not about reputation. You know, I had to live with this for so long. Now to get it out, I'm okay with, writing it and telling my story. And if it helps heal somebody, it has somebody to say, you know what, that's me. That happened to me. And if they recognize it and they go get help, I've done my part.
You wrote a book called I Am a Survivor. What made you come to that title?
Well, actually, my girlfriend, Michelle Evans, she lives in Houston. She had been sitting on that title for a long time. And we got on a book project, and she decided from certain people that she's met throughout the years that she wanted to do a collaboration book. And she came to me with it, and I was like, it's about time. And the topics that I talked about was bullying, emotional abuse, domestic violence, family violence, suicide, depression, and anxiety.
Okay.
And I know I left out some things, but I could have contributed to some other chapters in the book, but I wasn't ready for it. I'm working on my second book, and I'm going to go ahead and write it.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and add everything that I didn't do in this book. So I thank God for Michelle that she came up with the title and she asked me to be in it, and the book is here.
Tell us a little bit about the book.
The book is a collaboration book with 6 other women that's telling the story from tragedy to triumph. And like I said, they're talking on a variety of topics.
And this is not fictional women. These are real.
These are real women.
Okay.
Real women. We have one lady. She was married to a pastor.
Okay.
And she's been in domestic violence so bad that when we had our book launch in October, she couldn't make it because she was still healing from the abuse. It's something when we're also trying to get the men, because also a lot of men are abusers, they're victims. And one thing we try to tell everybody is that you are either a victim and you're the abuser. But sometimes we don't realize that we are abusers too. There's certain things that, like I said, we are told to keep quiet because it's a family. You don't want to embarrass the family. You don't want, but when you've been dealing with this for so long, all you're doing is embarrassing yourself. It's time to take off the mask. It's time to open up that chest wound because they already digging in your chest. But it's time to say, you know what? I'm hurting. I'm tired of it. I'm going to take a stance in it. I'm going to make a difference. If it's not just within me, it's going to be within somebody else's seat because people are watching us.
Okay.
Everything that we do, we're being watched. So you never know who's watching. I've had many folks that say, how did you do it? You were going through hell and you still smiled. I said, I had to put on a face, but if you would take this off, I'm just as messed up as you, just peel it off and look, I'm done. But I had to keep going because I have haters and people, naysayers. I'm making them mad.